sometimes a Z is just a Z. And that is obviously a play on words from Freud's famous saying, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, relating to, he often says, phallic symbols can represent a penis, but sometimes they don't. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar. Where to even begin with this one? Well, we had the signatures have dropped. Have you done your pick'ems? Have you been out there doing your pick'ems and supporting the teams? Doing the pick'ems and supporting your teams and supporting the game. I tell you what, even I bought a pack this time around. I don't know why. I shouldn't financially support this game in any way, shape or form, but I did. So, silly me. I've done me pick'ems. They're all in there. We'll be showing them over the course of the No Majors Club and having a good laugh about it. Ha ha, fun. Now, people have been submitting their signatures for a couple of months now. Obviously, there's a hard deadline set when you have to get the signatures in if you want your signature to be in the game. Spoiler, you want your signature to be in the game because selling the signatures are very important to the financial windfall they represent. One of the things I really had an issue with Valve last time was that, they suddenly changed the rules due to problems, essentially, with speed. And they made it so it was only like the Legends onwards that got stickers. If you played in the Challenger stage last event, you didn't get a sticker. And I said, I don't like that. It's either all the major or it's not. And so they changed that this time around. Now everyone put the stickers in. Everyone was celebrating the stickers. So Jack Etienne, a guy who did the business to buy Gambit's all team, who were at the Norwegian Ulti Agency, so it was perfectly acceptable for a North American org to do business with the same Russians that were currently boycotting because it actually went through Norway. Talk to the Norwegians about it, guys. Nothing to see here. But Jack Etienne did a tweet about the stickers. You've seen them, the stickers. There it is. I got one, and it's Shiro's sticker, and look at that. Isn't that a wonderful sight to behold? First of all, a sticker. There it is, Antwerp. Nice little shiny foil. And look, he's got a little squiggle under his name. Shiro. There it is, Shiro. You might not know this if you've not been keeping up with the war, with the invasion, I should say. Let's not call it a war. Right? Let's not do that. Let's not diminish how egregious it is. But if you've not been keeping up with news around the invasion of Ukraine, you might not know this. So, let me just give you a brief history of the letter Z within the context. So I'm going to alternate with Z and Z, by the way, and it's probably going to be mad triggering to people, so I apologise in advance. It's because I've lived in America and I've lived in the UK, and I can't even remember which one I'm supposed to say. So I just alternate now. So, anyway, after the Russians invaded Ukraine, the Russian military started to use the letter Z as a symbol to essentially denote who they were. They would put it on their uniforms, put it on their tanks. Some people have speculated and said that it's because it's from the word westward. Obviously they were driving west into Ukrainian territory. Others say it's from the Russian word for victory, which apparently also begins with a Z, and it's to show that we're going to win. And back home, the Russian nationalists that are being bombarded with the bullshit from, state media, TV, and Putin's ghastly fucking hero concerts where he's up there singing to a stadium full of people who clap, reminiscent of the fucking Stalin era. By the way, there's a story in a book I've got back there about how Stalin used to go to football games in Russia, and he wasn't very interested in football. And so he would fall asleep during games and everyone would they would stop playing until he woke up again and then would resume playing. So it looked like he hadn't fallen asleep and he didn't miss anything. So shades of that going on with Putin's hero tour. So anyway, that's why the letter Z has been adopted by Russian nationalists. For them, it is a sign of victory against something that their state media is telling them is an aggressive force on their border. Lies, of course. So, this upset a number of Ukrainian players who saw that squiggle under Shiro's name as basically being tacit endorsement of the letter Z of Russian nationalism. And then what ended up happening was a journalist called Nell decided to highlight this and say that this was really bad because it was a Z and there had to be some sort of punitive measures taken against Shiro. Now, in a vital bit of context as to how we get to this insanity, Virtus Pro, as you may or may not be aware of, have handled this terribly. They have been publicly, repeatedly accused by Ukrainian esports workers as being pro-Putin. They have said, we are victims of cancel culture. They literally said that. Virtus Pro said, we are victims of cancel culture, when they said they would have to compete under a different name when they chose outsiders. They said, we're being cancelled. We stand for peace, but we're against all forms of hatred. In other words, you could read into that, if you were uncharitable, that they're somehow criticising Ukraine, who are obviously being smeared in Russian media as being all Nazis. Just nonsense, just some state bullshit to justify their hostile activity. So, Virtus Pro have handled their business absolutely fucking terribly. And what happened in Dota was, they were in a tournament. They were playing a game of Dota. This was in an official Valve Dota 2 Pro Circuit tournament game. And this was Virtus Pro playing against a team with Ukrainian players on its roster. You need to pay attention to the mini-map down there.
Два раза подряд Сикер умирает, ДК не может никак Блэкенбарда фармить и начинает выпадать из игры.
And just in case you missed it, down there in the bottom left, one of the players draws the letter Z.
Хотя в один момент, опять-таки, там все было очень, не очень для Mind Games. Когда там два раза подряд Сикер умирает, ДК не может никак Блэкенбарда фармить и начинает выпадать из игры. И вот в один...
So, this player, Pure, who has a bad reputation anyway already as being toxic in pubs, if you read all the threads and subsequent nonsense that sort of come out about him, you know, he drew a Z in the middle of a game against Ukrainian opposition. His teammates tried to scribble it out super quick. It got pinged. You can see they exchanged like tips, and basically this became a thing because obviously right now in the current climate, the letter Z, especially to a Ukrainian person, but anyone who's supporting Ukraine, is the modern era swastika, right? It represents an aggressive, invasive force that is committing human rights violations and atrocities, literally massacring civilian targets in a war zone. So, you know, it's cut and dry. Anyway, they ended up getting rid of the player. They binned the player. They got rid of him. They cut him immediately, right? But here was the thing. So first of all, Pure came out and he did an apology, right? Which I'll play. I'll play the video. You know, if you commit the sin, you get to apologize in the same area. That feels journalistically responsible. That's essentially the topic here. And you can see...
Хотелось бы прокомментировать то, что сегодня случилось на первой карте против Mind Games. Дело в том, что во время длительной паузы мы с ребятами общались и рисовали на миникарте. Когда мы поняли, что получилось у меня, мы сразу же начали это замазывать. Мне не хотелось кого-либо обидеть и как-то задеть. Это получилось совершенно неосознанно. Всем мир.
So, he said it was just an accident. It was just an accident. Like, he drew that Z against Ukrainian players. He didn't even realise what he was doing. It was like free association. He was in a trance-like state. And he apologises and says peace to all. But obviously, beyond the summit, they consulted with Valve. It took Valve no time at all to say, Virtus Pro are out of the tournament. They're immediately disqualified. It's inflammatory. It's a hate symbol. There's no room for that. Right? And, like, listen, when I saw this, because I obviously follow Dota 2, when I saw this happening, I was like, yeah, that's entirely appropriate. I just want you to imagine, by the way, in what professional sports world, if a player drew a swastika or any other hate symbol, pick anyone you want. It doesn't always have to be swastika, the gold star of hate symbols. It can be, you know, pick any hate symbol. If any other player in any other sport had drawn a swastika in the middle of a game or pulled a t-shirt out to reveal like a fucking, you know, Nordic neo-Nazi symbol or anything like that, is there any world where there wouldn't be punitive actions against the team? Is there any world? I mean, yeah, keep in mind, even in esports, we're taking action against players for using Pepe. Not a hate symbol, right? A cartoon frog. So obviously, you would get banned. I've talked about this before. For my sins, because I was a kid and I didn't know better, I'm a Lazio fan. Let me tell you, I've seen Sinisa Mihailovic throw up the Roman salute, calling it generously that name. And he got banned. He got suspended. The team got fined. These are normal things that happen in sports. And so, obviously, this is completely appropriate. How did Virtus.pro react, though? Because Virtus.pro are Virtus.pro, they had a cry about it, if you can believe it. They had a cry about it. They literally put a statement out trying to justify what happened. They go, right after the incident with Pure, during Game 1, we contacted Valve and the tournament organizer while conducting our own investigation. Sergei Glamazda, CEO of Virtus.pro, personally talked to the players between the games to find out more about what happened. Pure publicly explained himself right after the game. BTS contacted other players of our team to hear their side of the story. We were notified that the final decision was up to the publisher. The severity of the punishment is shocking. Valve has a certain history of imposing disciplinary measures, but disqualifying the whole team from a DPC tournament based on a drawing on a minimap by a single player sets up a whole new precedent. It absolutely doesn't at all. By the way, the Cuckoo, when he was playing for Predator, not being able to compete at a major or indeed enter the country of China for a slur he used is more egregious. So, for me, getting a slap on the wrist and disqualified from the DPC is actually fair. And as I said, there's no world you could draw a swastika in the middle of an esports tournament and your whole team not be banished. There's no way. It just wouldn't fly. Any actions have consequences, whether intentional or not. Virtus.pro has been consistently opposing any cases of inciting hatred in esports. The club terminated the contract with Ivan Pure Moskalenko for his diminishing actions that led to disqualification from the tournament and caused a great deal of harm to our relationship with the Worldwide Esports Society. Further changes in our roster will be announced separately. Right, now, I've said it many times, you know, I'm at the stage now where I'm a benefit of the doubt kind of guy. I don't like to ascribe worst case scenarios to people. But I'll just say, for the way, there's too many coincidences now around Virtus.pro. There's too many coincidences around Virtus.pro and pro-war statements and, you know, that making themselves out to be the victims, a refusal to just say it as an org. You keep using that weird, like Orwellian phrase, we're against all forms of hatred, mainly the ones against us, the real victims. No, fuck you. No. Have some balls. Own your stance and suffer the consequences for that stance. Stop trying to half-ass it. Fuck them. Also, off the back of this, by the way, just as a little additional bit of information, that guy that he talked about, they announced that Sergei Glamazda, their CEO, has left. He's out of the org. We don't know why. There's no statement as to why. This just happened yesterday, but he's fucked off. He's peaced out. And now they're going to bring in a group of top managers from VP's parent company, ES Force Holding. The one, by the way, they were saying, we don't have any ties to anymore. They're registered in Cyprus. There's no oligarchs here. Why are you punishing us? And now they're going, yeah, we're bringing in a top team of managers from ES Force to run the up. Right, okay then. So the sanctions were all totally fucking justified the whole fucking time. Just morons and liars. I keep telling you, it's esports. It's fucking gross. Anyway, look. That's an important additional bit of context for what comes next, because everyone was on Z alert. Everyone was on high alert because this was a huge story in esports, and Ukrainian individuals were saying, you know, we've got to deal with this. So we arrive at a journalist who, listen, I'll also say, because I try and be fair and balanced, I have done tweets like this. I have sometimes gone off half-cocked. I have sometimes tried to draw attention to a drama I didn't need to. one that immediately springs to mind is when Smooya said GG and disconnected in the game, where his teammate then clutched and he had to come back when he was playing for Movistar Riders. I immediately took that clip, tweeted, because Smooya apologised and said he accidentally DC'd. And I was going, if he DC'd, why does he say GG? And it was pathetic. It was a witch hunt. It was childish. It was like, I'm just trying to dogpile him because we've had arguments in the past. I'm a grown man. You know, why am I behaving like that? So I do self-assess. And I do think about these things. And for the criticism I'm about to dole out, you could absolutely find examples of me doing the same, and you will absolutely be able to prove I'm a hypocrite, right? But I am trying to be better every day. I know SJWs like that phrase, right? And I am trying to do better journalism work and try and guide people forward to do better journalism work, right? So anyway, they can see, Nell says, the design change in the Shiro sticker, including something that could potentially be interpreted as a Z symbol of support for the Ukraine invasion, is very clumsy, to say the least. And then he added this, just for extra, dogpiling Shiro. This was his sticker at the last major. This change, intentional or not, is either provocative or completely stupid. So, I want to just have you think about that, right? I want you to think about that. This is a journalist, okay, who was making a public allegation. And in his mind, there are only two outcomes for this allegation. That either Shiro did it on purpose, he's a secret Russian nationalist, and he supports the invasion of Ukraine, or he's a moron. They're the only two options. Nell doesn't entertain that anything to do with the timing of the signature, why the sticker has changed. He's not going to be charitable. He's not even entertaining the notion it's just a squiggle and not a Z. None of that, right? He's either a bad person or a moron. They're the only two options, right? So I want to add, just as a bit of context before we go into the other part of it, you always change your sticker. You change your signature as often as possible in your sticker. Why? Because they sell more if you do. If your signature is the same as the last signature from major to major, right, then you're not going to sell as much. It's a fact. And also, by the way, when you're in the game, whether you're an org or a player, every subsequent sticker you get for each major, you get diminishing returns. I've seen the numbers. The first time you get sticker sales, you make a fortune compared to the second, third, fourth. But if you're in there all the time, people generally have a tendency not to upgrade as much or support as much, especially with the older ones being more of a point of pride to flash. So there was zero grace given out to Shiro, and people were immediately in there dogpiling him and saying, just outrageous shit. So I thought, fuck it. I am trying to be empathetic. The way I think about the Gambit guys is that they're a team of Russian kids that have come up. This fucked up geopolitical situation's happened, and it's essentially changed their lives. And sure, they don't have it as bad as people in the Ukraine. Obviously, they don't have to worry about their cities being bombed, their families being killed. Yes, but they are having to relocate to another part of the world for an indefinite period of time. They could have their entire sporting futures radically altered by this. They're being vitriolically hated and attacked. And I just keep thinking back to what Simple said in Katowice at the start of the war. I keep thinking back to when Simple came out and stood next to Electronic, and he said, these Russian players are my brothers, my friends, and we don't do politics here. We want to win together, do it for the fans, do it so people can not think about the war and the horrors of war. And I'm as scared as anybody else, but we've got an esports tournament to go and win. Fantastic speech, like from a source that I just never anticipated I would hear something so sort of moving in its almost naive purity. But also, Simple was doing vlogs and talking about how he was talking to other Russian players, the Gambit players, the Virtus Pro players, and they were crying and hugging him and saying, like, we're so sorry, we don't know what's going on. And I thought for a moment, maybe if peace had happened super quickly and we got through it, I thought for a moment esports would be immune to the horror, but it's not. And we're here now, and it's like, you know, I think, listen, it's not a popular thing to say right now, but I think this sucks for Gambit. I do. I feel sorry for Gambit. I don't want, you know, I know those guys are in a difficult situation. So when you see things like this, I couldn't in good conscience let it go unsaid. I couldn't in good conscience allow it to kind of just be out there publicly and ruin this kid's reputation. And also, these types of allegations are sort of a little bit dangerous, aren't they? You don't know if he's not got like family in Russia that could be affected. You don't know if he's got family in Ukraine. You don't know what this type of thing could do to him. He could get attacked at a global event. And it's like, you know, you have to be absolutely nailed on with stuff like this when it's politics. I've talked about this a lot. My life got appreciably worse in esports when I started doing politics stuff, you know, back in 2015. Because when people call you a Nazi, they mean it when they say they're going to kill you. Doesn't matter whether it's true or not. That label gets thrown at you. It's okay to kill you. The death threats I used to get were unreal off the back of that, off, you know, right-wing associations. And it's, you know, it was a level up from, you said something bad about my fucking video game team or my favourite player. I mean, it got to a place where it was really dangerous all of a sudden. And I had to have bodyguards at events and didn't even travel to some events, and I had to stop meeting fans and stuff like that. So you've got to be in a place where you're being responsible with allegations like that. You have to. You have to dot the I's and cross the T's. So anyway, let's get into just a few facts as to why that allegation was particularly outrageous. I obviously did a tweet chain about it. For one glorious day, I was the good guy on the internet as opposed to being scum. But here's the thing. So the idea that Shiro is some sort of deranged Russian nationalist and Gambit haven't made any like specific statements about the war isn't true. Obviously, when they were at Katowice, they put this statement out. They said, listen, we are asking for one thing. Let's stay human. Let's support each other in this difficult moment. Let's not engage politics in esports, but engage mutual respect and support. We stand for peace. That was from all of the Gambit management and all of the players. And if you remember as well, there was a real worry that if Gambit went deep in the tournament, the Polish crowd might turn hostile against them because there's already historical beef there. But it didn't. It was a nice little enclave of sanity and calm during a terrible time. But then, on top of that, this is the Gambit graphic designer. The Gambit graphic designer came out. And in this tweet, he specifically says, in response to Nell, that he designed the signature. So it wasn't even Shiro's work. And this is true if you know anything about the esports orgs and how it all works. That you don't trust the player to do a signature or anything like that. They might have a little bit of input, the ones with more wherewithal, but in general, you know you're on a deadline. You know you want to get these signatures done. You know you want to get them in. This is a source of revenue. You don't just let players are lazy and not very bright at the best of the times. So you have somebody do it. Now, I'm also told that Pavel, the graphic designer for Gambit, I'm told he's Ukrainian or is from, or lives in Ukraine or lived in Ukraine. And also is someone who go on his timeline. He has repeatedly put out simple speech. And as I'll show you, he designed a poster saying no war, he wants peace. So there was that. Then on top of that, Valve's own style guidelines, right, did this. They said, try and make your signature interesting and don't make it your real signature because then people will be able to forge your signature. And then there it is. They said, as an example of an interesting signature, why not use the little squiggle under your name? And here's the thing. It definitely works as an example because you can go and just look into this shit. Like, right? Okay, there's one. There's an example of the squiggle. You know, Makalele, he's done the squiggle there. He's got the squiggle. Carrigan, he's done the squiggle. He's had a squiggle. This one, I mean, this is the most offensive Zed of all. He's had a squiggle. So all squiggles that, you know, if I squint and fucking squeeze them up, They're all Zs, right? And obviously, remember as well, the timing is important, right? Because it's not like Z has always been this grotesquely offensive symbol, a symbol of pro-Russian aggression, right? It hasn't always been like that. It is specific to this invasion. And so you then have to understand that, well, the timing is mega important. And so here is the graphic designer of Gambit, and I'm going to go over some things factually. Again, it's like, you'll have to excuse it's in Cyrillic, but what it says is, he said, we made these stickers a long time before the things that are happening at the moment. And let's just think about this. So he was Gambit's graphic designer, right? Gambit were at the RMR, which was right up into the line, and maybe they didn't know they were going to qualify. Well, spoilers, that's what some people were saying. They didn't even know they were going to qualify, so they must have made the sticker. Right, here's how you know. He's Gambit's graphic designer. They've been with the Ulti agency since at least March. Now, you'll notice there's no, like, official date or press release because it was all one big contrivance. It was all one big conspiracy to get Russian players out of Gambit and to Cloud9 without anyone saying anything bad about the business being done. But that's fine. You know, that's fine. It's clear to me that's what went on. But whatever. They'd left Gambit, so why would their staff make the signatures? So these must have been done while they were still at Gambit. So think about that. So I'll take him at his word that these were done a while ago. And by the way, obviously, there's more we'll get to. But just to also show you, the idea that this guy has decided to sneak a Z in, why did he do this then? Why on the day of the invasion is he saying no war? Can anyone, like, explain? Like, what? Did he get radicalized in, like, a month? Is that what happened? And he was like, well, I was against the war, but that fucking Z symbol's super cool, so what am I going to do? No, obviously, he fucking is against the war. It's in your mind. Everybody jumped the gun on this. Here's another thing that didn't blow up. I didn't put it in my Twitter chain. Somebody on Reddit posted that Gambit had done a signing in 2021, where, you know, where they meet and greet the fans and they do, like, poster signings and autographs and stuff like that. Look at Shiro's signature. You'll have to tilt your head. Look at Shiro's signature. That's from 2021. So what we're saying now is the expectation for Shiro is he had to be a time traveler and know that that symbol was going to be used in this way for all this time. Now, one of the things I really didn't like is the way that Nell sort of tried to snake his way out of it a little bit. And he was saying, oh, I didn't make any direct, like, allegations. I didn't, you know, people have just misunderstood. Listen, I've been a victim of that a million times. But as I've just demonstrated, it wasn't just the one tweet you made. You followed up, you made multiple tweets. And again, you presented two outcomes. You presented he's either malicious or a moron. The end. There was no other grace given. And I've just demonstrated, you know, it took me like 15, 20 minutes of work, right? I just demonstrated all of the things you could have found and more and beyond. Did you even think to reach out to the org? You ever think to reach out to the player? You ever think to, like, just ask, when did you submit those stickers? That would be the first thing that should come into a journalist's mind. The literal first thing. Well, the timing's important. But we're all losing our fucking mind. We're so desperate to get the next villain of the day that will do this. And just to underline, because as I'll show you, he pussied out and said, no, I never said this. And no. Check this out. Voluntary or not, he is Russian and knows how it can be interpreted. Now, obviously, it couldn't be interpreted at the time it was made, and Shiro himself didn't even make it. Might not even have checked it, might never have seen the signature, might have just been told by Gambit, we've got your signatures ready to go, they're going to be in the game, don't worry about it. Intended or not, right? He is Russian and knows how it can be interpreted. We have seen players on other games fired for using this symbol. So talking about the pure thing I just showed you, I'm not saying that's what he means, but it's still a mistake on his part not to be aware of that. That is my point of view. So he is unquestionably refusing to move on this idea that he has done something wrong, either motivated by malice or stupidity. That's that. So when he fucking does this pivot, guys, it's sickening. So first he did the thing. Think of all the abuse I get, and I've never done this. I've never gone protected on Twitter. It'll never happen. I'll just walk away from the fucking, from the screen. Like, I'm never going to go protected. Protected is like the weakness, and I've had it all. I've seen Vampeta's dick more times than Vampeta. I have had FaZe fans come at me. Sargon of Akkad fans come at me. I've had the Brazilians come at me a million times, the Brazilian esports fans. I've had the Rocket League community come at me for 3 days. I've had fucking Overwatch fans come at me. Literally, and someone, right, it was apparently I'm the bad guy for blocking a group of people when somebody from Overwatch literally tweeted out publicly, I'm outside your house with a machete and I'm going to kill you. I'm the bad guy, remember, for blocking people on Twitter, the worst crime of all. So I've had it all, never gone protected, not once, right? When you go protected, I think what people imagine is you're sitting down and you're like, oh, God, I've really upset everybody. I might have to have a period of reflection, right? Just a period of reflection, right? Like, maybe I did do something wrong. Maybe I could have done something different. Maybe I could have done something better. So he did come back, and I am a public figure. I must apologize, So he did. He came back, and I'm just scrolling through. He was tweeting a lot about football, kind of get around it, So here's the apology. Keep in mind, you've just seen a direct compare and contrast of the 3 tweets he said, even throwing up additional evidence. But why did he change his signature? Why was it a smiley face? Why is it a Z now? Even though it's not even a Z to fucking begin with. That's a major point. But he said, when I see comments on Reddit or Twitter, I just want to make sure that people understand. I never said or implied Shiro supported the Russian war. Just that it could be misinterpreted that way. Exactly like many Ukrainian people did. Zeus, a major winner, being an example. So in other words, this is an appeal to authority, isn't it? Zeus made the mistake and he's a major winner. He's also Ukrainian. He's also got other things on his mind now. You're a fucking journalist. You're meant to be fair, balanced and impartial anyway as a baseline. But your fucking cities aren't being fucking bombed and destroyed, are they? So, maybe you can be a bit more level-headed than Zeus. Also, just throwing this out there, just for old time's sake, Zeus is a meathead, come on. Literally, Zeus still thinks someone got his nose as a kid. You're not the fucking sharpest knife in the drawer. Then, he went for this excuse. English is not my first language, and it sounds all right in French. I'm sorry if it came across differently and for the undue speculation caused on Shiro, because that was never my intention. So he literally tweeted all that speculation and then said, this is my point of view. It is immutable. I will not change. Only presented 2 outcomes. But then he was saying, it was never my intention to have the undue speculation. My points have been misinterpreted. And to hide behind the secondary language thing, I have not seen anything that pathetic since Hassan pretended his 9/11 comments were because, yeah, I struggle with English sometimes. It's got nothing to do with your origins, why you struggle with English. Anyway, my points have been misinterpreted. I was just pointing out that it could be interpreted differently, and that could have been avoided by Cloud9 managers, agents, people taking care of him. Already submitted, already designed. It's a throwback to Gambit. The person who did it cannot be impugned in any way, shape, or form, and indeed, taking him at face value, the design occurred before the invasion. There is nothing anybody could have done. And for the 50th time, I'm working in esports for more than 10 years, 4-year full-time. I work daily on many things in the French scene, and broadcast roster league is not even 5% of my work. And yeah, my name and face is known and is out there if you're smart enough to look for it. He is still doing this thing where he thinks it's reasonable to say, if you dox me, you can. And therefore, it's fine that I don't show my face or name when I make these allegations. I hope people now understand why I have railed against the dangers of anonymous journalists. There are only 2, in fact, realistically, there's only 1 reason why you should ever allow a journalist to hide their face, hide their name, and that is to protect them from reprisals. Either they're an industry insider, or they're writing about a terrible regime that would fucking imprison or execute them. Like the ones that own ESL. right? That's the only area you would do it. And do you know what? Even when you do it, the editors of that publication must absolutely know who you are and know your sourcing and know that your information is valid. I've talked about this. It is very easy to get online and make allegations when you're anonymous. Think of all those clout-seeking leak accounts. If you are a full-time journalist, face, name. Bare minimum. Bare minimum. Then he goes, if after reading that, you still think I'm racist. So, again, he's the victim, right? Nobody accused him of being racist. No, you know what I mean? Like, no, we're saying you tried to fuck over a kid's career for clicks on a website based on no evidence. If you still think that I am racist or that this tweet was malicious, simply unfollow me. I don't care about how many people follow me. Most of you knew me for my work before everything else, and that's what matters. Indeed. So, obviously, after 36 hours or whatever it was of being slammed, being accused of being a Russian fucking supporter, getting all the usual, I have no doubt, death threats and abuse. Obviously, Cloud9 not knowing what to do or what to say because they're a North American organization, and by the way, they're open to their own allegations of hypocrisy and stuff. So, listen, I thought they would just kill this with silence and not say anything and just let it pass. And we could all acknowledge that there's something very rotten and wrong with the rise of the influencer journalist. Which, by the way, also, I am more than aware. I am sat here on a Twitch stream with over 100,000 Twitch followers being sponsored to talk to you right now. I understand that line of influencer journalism. I probably would be breaking it in any other serious industry. But I'm not Taylor Lorenz, and I think my body of work definitely speaks for itself, and I think you'd have a hard time impugning my journalistic integrity. So Shiro did make a statement, and again, it's in Cyrillic. I will read it to you. He said, "Don't look for hidden meaning where there is none. My business is to play CS, not to do covert diversions." I'm going to tie on a little bit here, right, about something else. I talked about it on the Esports Gospel, but I know not all of you listen to that. You really should. It's good. It's 1 hour of me, uninterrupted stream of conscious, telling you why fucking Esports sucks balls. And I don't drink as much water and smack my mouth so much because I'm not as hot, because I don't have to have the lights on. So it's good, unless you come for the ASMR. But anyway, the pressure we are applying to public figures, especially teenagers, Shiro's 19, I believe, to speak out against Putin's war, Putin's invasion, you can't countenance it in good conscience, because since the invasion began, there's been lots of changes to how the Russian state are dealing with the protesters and the pushback. And there is a law right now where if you call for peace, that is interpreted by the state as being against the Russian military, they can put you in prison for 15 days. And it's Russia. You're on a list. Like, don't think all that Soviet-era apparatus went anywhere. And it applies to anything that can be interpreted as a protest. So what that means is if you go on Twitter as a public figure, and trust me, multiple public figures have done this, at great risk to themselves. And by the way, the West shit on those people, right? Think about what's happening at Wimbledon, where a guy literally held up a fucking sign, top-ranked Russian players holding up a sign, please, please, stop war now. He's not allowed to play. We're saying he's a bad guy. So what's the incentive, by the way, to call out Putin and ruin your own life and put yourself in danger? I've said this many times. It's really unethical to demand somebody else speak up on something and demand they make a statement about something that in no way could affect you, but is directly linked to their life. So, in other words, we are saying to our Russian esports players, the ones that don't support the war, the ones that don't support Putin, the ones that have friends who are Ukrainian, the ones that travel the world, the ones that are metropolitan, the future generation that's going to bring Russia back from this dark time that Putin's plunged itself into in a post-Putin world. These are going to be the people that are going to be sensible and more open, and it's a path to peace to support and help these people understand that we don't fucking despise all Russians in the West. right? I feel that's an important part. It's going to suck for the next 30 years for obvious reasons. They're never going to be able to rebuild the Ukrainian-Russian bond, which has come apart since 2014 and beyond, if we're honest. But these are not bad guys. Shiro is not a bad guy. He's not a Russian nationalist. He's not some guy that is happy about what's happening in Ukraine. And so when we demand he makes a statement and put himself at personal risk, it's unethical to demand that. It doesn't affect you. It doesn't affect you. It can affect him. It can affect his family. He's in Serbia now. Like, how much more of a fealty test do you need? He's left the country. And so it's fucking sad what happened to him, in my opinion. And it's, by the way, no one's talking about Vilat, the Ukrainian streamer, literally posting the SS symbol, literally supporting Nazis publicly. People are going, it's a complicated situation. Well, no one, like, are you not outraged about that? You should be. So it's fucking unreal. Like, what a terrible day. What a terrible day, like, for our scene that was. And I'll just also add to this part of it, because I saw something that makes me think Navi's not going to make it past this major. And it's not really appropriate to tag it onto this video, but Griff, I probably will anyway, because why not? Obviously, Navi are a Ukrainian org based in Kiev, but they've historically had Russian players. They've historically had, they're beloved by Russian esports fans. And obviously this situation has created, lots of issues with that relationship for obvious reasons. Keep in mind, the CEO is in Ukraine fighting on the front lines. And so, dare I say, he might have a different perspective on it than someone sat in their bedroom playing video games. I get it, right? Or me with a beer belly talking into a webcam. I get it. I do get it. I can't understand it. I can't conceive of the horror. I don't know what it would do to my soul, but I get it. I get the tensions. I get the hostilities. It makes sense. But I saw something that made me think, yeah, there's no way this can work anymore, this Navi team. And we've been denied an era for one of the greatest teams of counterstrike I ever saw play. So, first of all, the Navi CEO said we won't work with Russians that pay Russian taxes to the state. His bar for complicity in Putin's invasion is if you pay taxes if you live in Russia. He made a demand that everyone relocate. I think about Electronic, who was stood there next to Simple and Katowice, a man with a wife and a young child, and how he would have to relocate them as well. And I think about the impracticality of that and the uncertainty of that. And then what happens if you want to go back, and when would you go back? And all of these, like, issues. And the Russian players haven't said anything about it. Navi had 2 academy teams, and a lot of the players were Russian. They said to them, you have to leave the country. But they were all young. So they weren't even old enough to leave home or pay taxes. But they cut them all. And now all the players in the academy teams are Ukrainian. Their women's team was announced, and they called it the Navi Javelins. And in case you're not up on the reference, the Javelin anti-tank missile is what the US is sending to Ukraine so the Ukrainians can blow up the Russian tanks. And I'll be honest, I thought that name, I feel that's inappropriate. I get it. Like, I get it, but I don't know what's going to happen now, because Boomich has had to come out and make a statement. The Russian players were being very quiet. Some of them have gone back home. Apparently all their visas and paperwork are fine. They're going to be able to travel. But Boomich's wife, and man alive, by the way his marriage is interwoven now in the fucking fabric of CSGO history is insane. But obviously it was the last thing that happened at the last major, right? Was he was like fucking Dog the Bounty Hunter when he was reamed out after Beth died. Moon Angel, will you marry me? That's like literally how the Stockholm major ends. Like everybody knows, like, if you're gonna ask to marry him, like marry you, you fucking do it before you pick up the trophy. That's where the tournament has to end. And instead, he, like, waited. We're all like, okay, and back to the studio. Oh, no, wait, something's happening on stage. Boomich. We're Moon Angel, will you marry me? And me and Duncan, you can imagine, he's, like, just looking over at me, and he's gone, man alive. He's ruined his life, or just something, like, just curmudgeonly or ridiculous like that. And then we had to do the sign-off. So, anyway, they've had marital problems, right? They were meant to be getting a divorce. They were already separated. And then she's come back into his life and publicly said, because you can imagine the abuse both of them were getting. He was being called a cuckold and a loser. She was being called a gold digger and a bitch. So they were like, listen, this is fucking outrageous. Let's have a, if we're going to do it next time, let's do it. If we're going to divorce, let's have a quiet divorce. So they said, oh, we're back together and it's all okay. And then she put something out on her social media in support of the Russian military. So you can imagine how well that's gone over with the Navi org. So Boomich has had to make a statement now, right? There it is. I'll read you the statement. There you see. You can see the other headline. Boomich's wife supported Russia with a photo. May it cause problems? Yeah, I reckon it fucking will, actually. I reckon it'll cause massive fucking problems in the current climate. Like, holy fucking shit, of course. Will it cause a few... Will there be a... Yes, it fucking will. Big time. So anyway, this is Boomich's statement. This May, it will be 3 years since I became the captain of Navi. Mind you, yeah, doesn't time fly. I experienced a lot of emotions in this period. I love my team and my club, and right now I have mixed feelings. I'm sorry for being silent for so long about everything that's going on, and for the inappropriate publications of my wife, Lika. I've been in Ukraine on many boot camps, never was discriminated against on any basis, and I've always felt myself at home there. I'm sorry that part of my fellow citizens fully trust the television and that it's hard for a lot of sane people, including me, to call things out by their name. I understand a lot of people won't be satisfied by this message, but I want to say that I'm for peace and against bloodshed. That's all I can say right now. We have a major ahead of us, and after that, me and the club will decide what's next. I hope you will be supporting us at the tournament. First of all, you know, he's telling you how hard it is to speak up about this. He's been put in a terrible position by his wife. It's hard to even think on some level if they're having marital problems. She hasn't done that in a way to like, you know, and fuck him over. But again, I won't ascribe the worst intentions. She might just be a Russian nationalist and believe the propaganda that's getting beamed directly into her eyes every day. But Boomich is telling you that, like, we can't talk about this stuff in Russia. He's been back home dealing with his divorce. But then the bit at the end where he says, me and the club are going to decide what's next. Well, it's over, isn't it? It's over. It's over. That just says to me it's done. That the Russian players are going to be cut, you know, or certainly he's going to have to leave. I mean, shit, man. What if it's a stipulation of, like, we're working through our relationship, so you have to be back home with me? No, now you're asking him to give up his wife, which, by the way, you know, probably long term. Not a bad call, but I don't know, man. It's too wild to, like, process, because we're just esports. We're just esports. But, you know, for me, it looks like the Navi era, as we knew it, is over. I reckon there's probably a future where Navi doesn't have any Russian players on the team. I really do. I reckon, honestly, the CEO will be looking to draft in players from, you know, other regions. Virtus Pro are done as a CS team. Virtus Pro are done as an org, in my opinion. They've handled their shit so bad, as I've already demonstrated. So maybe there's some sort of collaboration there with the Kazakhstani guys. But, man, what an era we could have had. How things could have gone. How it all could have been. So, I wanted to get that in. I thought Nell was a bit irresponsible how he handled that there, and I don't think his apology was appropriate either. But, you know, I call things as I see them. People can agree. People can disagree.